Hello everyone, welcome back to justlaravel.com. I'm back with another video. Here in this video, I'm going to show you how to consume a Laravel API with passport integrated in a Vue.js app. In the previous videos, I've shown you how to create an API in Laravel and also shown you how to integrate a passport protection package to our API. And also I have created a consumer app to consume this API that was also in Laravel. And also I mentioned in previous videos, this API can be consumed in other front-end frameworks like Angular and Vue. So here is the Vue video on it. So here I'm going to consume this Laravel API which we have created earlier in a Vue app, in a standalone VueJs app. So let's get started with this Vue app. Let me open my command prompt. So here I am in my folder. So first we need to check whether Vue is installed in our system or not. For installing Vue, we have just need to run this command npm install -g at the rate of vue/cli. Here -g is for global. It installs Vue globally in our system. That means we can create Vue applications anywhere from our system. So I have already installed that in my system. So now we need to create a new Vue app. As in Laravel, we create a new Laravel app by creating Laravel new and give the application name. So similarly here we'll have a command called Vue create and we'll give some application name to it. I'll call it VueJs consumer video. So now this command creates us a new application, VueJs application. It asks us for a preset. I'll go for default for now. It will install some plugins. It also says this might take a while. We'll wait for it. So application is created. So now we can go into the application using cd command. Cd VueJs consumer video. And I'll open this in Sublime text editor. So this is the application, Vue application. And this is the default folder structure. We have node modules here and we'll have a public folder here with just index.html file. So we are not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything in these two folders. And the main folder here is source. Here we'll have components. Just like controllers in Laravel, we'll have components here. So in these components, we'll write some functionality to call the API and display the data. In Vue we have the HTML. This is called the template. This is the script. That means everything in Vue.js we write in a TypeScript, and this is the style for it. So we have everything in a single file. Instead of having a Vue file separately, controller file separately, we will have everything in a single file in this Vue structure. This template is for showing the HTML. That is we call views, something like views in Laravel, and this script is something like controller in Laravel, and this basic style. So now if you are going to do a functionality or do anything, we are going to write in this block here, in this script block here. So here is one basic hello world component which is in components folder. Anyhow, we are not going to use that. So we are not going to use this hello world. So we are going to remove this, but before removing, I'll just open my terminal and I'll run the application and show you how it looks. npm run serve. Just like we have PHP artisan serve in Laravel, here we have to run npm run serve. It starts a development server for us. So it has been compiled successfully and our application is running here locally. So let me copy this. So this is a default screen which comes from Vue.js. So everything comes from here in this hello world component. It says hello world and this is the component. So we have included it in this hello world component. This is all the content which we are seeing in this page. So as I said, I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to remove this and also this import. So we are not going to do anything here. We'll just write a template here and we'll create a table here maybe and display the data here. For now, let it be like this. We'll come back to it later. So first thing we have to work on this part. So we also don't need this hello world, we can remove it from here. So as we want to make some API calls to an external service which is hosted in our server, in our Laravel server, demos.justlaravel.com. So for that we need to use some packages in Vue. Here the most famous one is Axios. So we'll install Axios in our application, and then using Axios I will make HTTP calls, like HTTP calls to the API and get the users and display them. So let me install this Axios package now. So let me stop this server for now. So you need to install this Axios package. So I will run this command npm install axios vue-axios. So this will install the package for us so that we can make HTTP calls using this package. So Axios is successfully installed. So we can use it in our applications now. So let's go back to our application here. Here we need to import it. Here at the top of the script, I will import this Axios from Axios. And for using Axios, we can use like this vue.use Axios. But here we also need to import this Vue here. Let me import that. So let me import this Vue here. Import Vue from Vue and import Axios from Axios. So we have imported Vue and Axios, and we are also telling Vue to use Axios so that we can use Axios as well. So now we are going to get data from the API which I have created earlier. So here is the demo for it. First I need to register here, get the client ID and client secret, and so that I can use them to get the authentication secret, and then use that to get the users. So let me duplicate this, and here if I go to, so this is our post on it. So here we'll create a Laravel API. So in that API we'll get the users, we'll store the users. These are all the users we are going to get. We have created them using this Flickr, and we have created some sheets for it. So this is all dummy 250 users created. So after that, and I have protected the API with passport. So only after registration here we'll get the access to the API. So this is all the application here, and there is also a consumer app here in the below. This is the consumer app. So first we need to make a post call to the URL here. We need the client ID, client secret, username and password. So here register, and I'll give some test details here. So I'll give password as 123456 123456. This is just for testing purpose. Just need to remember this email, test@testing.com, and the password is 123456. So after I click register here, it's .com. So after I register here, we'll get the client secret and client ID. So we also need to remember this. So let me save this in a new file here. The email we used is test@testing.com, and our client secret and client IDs are this, and a password I used is 123456. So we'll use this in making this API call here. As is shown here, we need all these details. So we need to use this to get the access token, and after getting the access token we'll call the actual API users so that we can get the users data. So in our Vue application here, there are some methods in Vue, that is onload, like similarly in JavaScript onload, like when the page loads we have some functions to call. Here there's a function called mounted. So mounted means when the application is mounted. So when the application initially launches, we can call this API call for getting this access token using the client ID, client secret, username and password. So for doing any functionality on the application load, so we can use this mounted. So, and this should be a function, and here we'll call the And here we can call the API. Instead of calling here, I'll create a new method and call it in that method. I'll call the method as get data, this dot get data. So I'm going to create this method here. Now we have to write all the methods in this methods. So the method name is get data function. So here we will make Axios post call to the API. So for that we'll write Axios dot post, and this is the URL of the call, API call, and we also need to pass some parameters to this post call. So as I said earlier, we need to pass client ID, client secret, and all such things. So this is the client ID here. The client ID we got is 79 here. So the client ID is 79. The client secret is this one we got here. So I'll copy this and paste that here. The grant type is password, and the username we have given is test@testing.com. So let me pass it here, and the password is 123456. So let me save this. So this is the post call, and then for getting the response we have another function called then. So we can get the response of that in a function called then. So we'll write dot then, and here I'll get the response. This is a arrow function. So here we'll get the access token. We can get the access token using a response token. By using this we'll get the access token, and we will store that in a variable and use that variable to call the actual API call. So first let me create a variable to store this access token. So we can access variables using this data function. This is a function, and it should return all the variables we are going to use in this application, and it's going to return access token. So now we can use this dot access token to store this response. So but before this, first let me console and see what is the output, so that we can confirm whether this access token is coming or not. Console.log, and I will just console the response, and I'll comment this and we'll use this later. So let me run this application as well. npm run serve, so that it will run and we can see in the console whether we are getting the data or not. This is the application, we are already running it. So let me inspect it and see. It's actually console here, so it will automatically refresh. It says error console. So I have fixed that console, and you can see here data. Here we are getting some token type, expired seed, access token. You can see we got the access token here, refresh token and access token. So we need this access token. So actually it is getting in data. So instead of calling just response of access token, we have to use data here, so that we can get the access token from that structure. So this is how we are getting the access token. So just in this API call, we'll get the access token and store in it. So, and I will call another call to get the actual users data, this dot get users data. So in this function, we'll make another similar API call and get the users. So for that, we need to write another function here, that is get users data. Actually, we need the access token here. We can also pass that as a parameter, but we don't need to do that as we are already accessing this variable globally. So we can get that variable in this method, in any method of this component, so that we don't need to pass as a parameter this access token to this function. So we can get the access token here as well. So for testing, let me console this and see. So I have saved this. So I go and see, you can see this is the access token here. You can see this is from this line here. So we are getting this from that console from this line. So we are able to access that access token in this function as well. So now we can make an API call passing this as a header to the API call to get the actual users we are trying to get. So let's do that now. And this is a Axios get method. Instead of post, we'll just need to get it here, and the URL will be demos.justtravel.com, and it will be /API/users. This is the endpoint we are going to call, and we are going to pass some headers here, and the header would be this access token, and the header is authorization header, and we'll have a bearer, and we'll use this .access token to pass the value for this header. So now that's it. We can now call the then function. Similarly, in the above call, we'll use response and use the arrow operator. This is the new syntax in the latest ES version. So let me console the data here itself before doing anything. So I'll just console the response and check whether we're getting those 250 users. So let us go back to the application and check the console for more details. As you can see, we have this array of 250 length. That means we have 250 users. So you can see data is 250, and if you go, this is the name, email, and password, email verified, and we are getting all this data which we wanted to get from the API. So we are almost done. We are getting the data. We just need to display the data now. Let me create a variable here similar to access token. I'll call another variable called users data. So I'll pass the data which were coming here to that variable. So I'll call this dot users data equal to response dot data. Actually, as you see, we are getting the data in this data variable. So response dot data, and now I'm going to return this dot users data, so that this users data can be accessible everywhere. So here we are getting users data. So now we'll use this users data in this template to display the results. As of now, we are showing empty HTML. We are not getting any HTML here. So we'll use this space here, create a table, and display them in a table. We'll just display the name and email with ID, I guess. This is the table here, and this is the ID, name, and email headers here. So here in this we'll call the name, ID, and email for all of the 250 users. So we need to use a loop here, for loop. Here in Vue we have a directive called VueFor. So using this VueFor, we can loop all the items, that is these items here, users data, and display them. So the syntax for VueFor directive is we should write Vue. We should write v-for, and then we want to get something. We can name something like item in users data. This is the variable here, this is the variable, and we are saving all the users in that variable. So we'll use that variable and loop them. So now we'll get all the items in users data. So that we just need to open a TD here and write in interpolation tags. Similar to Laravel's blade, we have the same interpolation tags here. We'll use item dot ID. So we'll get the item ID, and similarly we'll get the name and email here. We'll call this as name, and we'll call this as email. So I guess if everything works fine, we are able to see this name, ID, and email of all the 250 users. So let me check. Yeah, you can see this. We'll get the ID, name, and email of all the users which we have stored in the API. So we are successful now. So that means we have consumed the Laravel API with passport package and displayed the result in a Vue.js app, in a standalone Vue.js app. And so simple. First we need to authenticate. this passport package, but with using our registration details and client secret and client credentials. So when we authenticate, we'll get an access token, so that using that access token we can make calls to any API. So here we have only one endpoint. This is this applies to any API, any endpoints. First, the concept is simple. First, we need to authenticate it, get the access token, and use that access token to call all the APIs. So we'll get the data here, and you can do anything with this data. This looks pretty simple, guys. First, the main thing is to authenticate the API, and then use that token to call all the API calls. So we'll get the data. So that's it from this video. Hope you like the video. I'll also post all the code from this video in the GitHub, and I'll post a GitHub link in the description, and also I'll give a link to this post, all the related posts here. I also made a blog post on this application as usual. As you see here, I will create a blog post for all of my videos here. This is the site justlaravel.com.
Thank you for watching. Now it's time to discover more. Simply click on the screen to subscribe to our channel, watch another video, and visit our webpage.